youth empowerment, and I'm sort of kind of gathering information from local young people and helping them to create change, and hold people in positions of power to account. And I'm joined here by Tam.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us. My name's Tam. I also work at Spotlight now, although when I made this film with Harry, I didn't actually. No. So this film, the context of it was that Harry and, well, where it all came from, Harry and I worked on a project when I was working at Langdon Park School in Poplar, and we did a project kind of working with local young people around sustainability, raising awareness, and sort of giving young people more of the tools to try and tackle air pollution in the borough. And that was so much fun that we felt as if there was an opportunity to kind of do a film around young people and sustainability in the borough. And that's also where Emma came in. Emma and Babu Poplar Harker kind of suggested the concept of the film. Harry and I co-directed it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the whole premise of the film was that we were kind of running on quite a tight budget, so we didn't have a huge big kind of production crew to help us with the production of this film. We wanted to capture local voices that included elderly residents, it included very young residents, it included teenagers, and we wanted to kind of give a local perspective on air pollution and the way in which it is affecting people in Tower Hamlets. Then it was really important for us, obviously, to highlight the health implications of air pollution as well, which you'll hear Emma talking about in the film. The narrator of the film is a teenage girl called Chiquita, who I have worked with a lot as like her youth worker at Spotlight. She's since graduated from the Spotlight services and now goes to university, but she was a really fantastic narrator for the film. I think, yeah, let's play it. And then if anyone has any questions, we can take them after the film. It's about 15 minutes long. Tam, are you happy to share?
Yeah, I've got it. I'm hoping that I can share screen to make sure I share sound as well. So should be here. Can you guys see that?
Yeah, we can see that.
Cool.
This is Tower Hamlets. This East London borough is home to over 300,000 people, with some of the UK's most vibrant and diverse communities. But life here is under threat from a growing environmental crisis. Floods, food shortages, pollution, and even pandemics. These are all symptoms of the crisis the borough is facing. Driven on by rising global temperatures, deforestation, and the emission of toxic particles into the atmosphere, these natural disasters could become all too frequent. If nothing is done in the next 5 to 10 years to tackle the problem, even the damage done by COVID-19 will be nothing compared to the impact on local people's lives and livelihoods. It's time to face reality. The global environmental crisis is a health crisis for Tower Hamlets, and it is already affecting people close to home. 8-year-old Katia is a student of Mayflower Primary School in Poplar, Tower Hamlets, where she's been learning about the scale of the problems we face.
My name is Katia, and my favourite savior of the world is Greta Thunberg. And there's a little message that I really think is true. No one is too small to make a difference. streets.
Like, what do you think about the environment?
It needs help. We don't care about it. We only care about ourselves.
11-year-old Razul, currently at Manorfield Primary School, agrees.
The global warming has raised to a really high level. I don't know if it's even possible to stop it right now, but because we still have hopefully a lot longer, we could try tackling the problem. We should take care of our planets, not just for ourselves, but for everyone else in the world, because it's affecting us, not just them, but us as well.
These school students are right to be worried. The clear scientific consensus is that global heating is placing our health at serious risk.
You look all around the world, that there are, massive problems happening now. That's at 1 degree warming. It will continue to warm, or heat is probably the better word of calling it. This perceived sort of safe limit of 1.5 degrees, which we're trying to kind of keep it below, is that is a world that is worse and harsher than the one that we're living in now. So if you double that, we're going into territory where humans have never existed on this planet before.
Though global heating affects the whole planet, Tower Hamlets is very much at risk, as local health professionals make clear.
So the climate crisis is a health crisis. There are multiple reasons for that. The climate crisis increases the risks of flooding and fires, and that's particularly the case in areas which are prone to flooding, and that would include Bangladesh, which may be a significant concern for our local population. There's also increased risks of infectious diseases. It's thought that there's going to be 200 million more people likely to be exposed to malaria. So I'm a doctor and I'm a mother, and I'm really worried about my children's future.
As well as the threat of global heating, the environmental crisis can already be felt in the air we breathe. Despite a temporary drop during the COVID-19 lockdown, with fewer motor vehicles on the streets, air pollution levels in Tower Hamlets remain dangerously high. This is damaging the health of local residents, especially the young, the elderly, and those with underlying health conditions.
I'm Paul Moncrief, local resident of some considerable years now. We'll talk a little bit about the A12. This was how it used to look before the A12 was built, really. So this was the road. This was the bus 108 going into Blackwall Tunnel. So it's, as you can see, it's just literally one flow of traffic each way. It's an extreme urban form, that road, producing lots of particulates and things. I'm suffering myself. I choose not to walk along a main road because I can just feel it, I can taste it.
Emissions from road transport are by far the largest cause of pollution in London. This is a particular problem for Tower Hamlets, with the A12 and A13 major roads passing right through the borough. The A12, for example, accommodates 100,000 cars, motorbikes, buses, vans and lorries every single day, each contributing to the invisible cloud of toxic particles that sits above us, making it harder and harder to breathe.
Air is such a basic human right, yet it's a simple act. We're doing it as we speak right now. Yet there are millions of children around the world who don't get this basic right. And air pollution tends to be such a silent and invisible threat that often people don't even associate the dangers of air pollution to our health. And children are very vulnerable to air pollution, because their bodies are still developing. So their lungs, their brains, their respiratory tract, that makes them vulnerable. The second thing is they're physically more active than adults. 70% of the towns and cities of UK are affected by unsafe air pollution levels. It's not just asthma and pneumonia, we are also talking about brain development, and to a large extent links have been made to cancer as well.
Poor air quality affects everyone in Tower Hamlets. In the borough, around 7% of all deaths in people over 30 are caused by air pollution. For children growing up in Tower Hamlets, their lung development is affected, causing them to have up to 10% less lung capacity than the national average. This is a problem that affects us all, but especially Black, Asian, and minority ethnic groups who are concentrated in areas with higher levels of air pollution. To make matters worse, research has indicated a link between high levels of air pollution and higher rates of infection and death from COVID-19. Allowing air pollution to deteriorate unchecked has worsened health inequalities and made minority groups more vulnerable to the virus.
Well, at the moment, obviously Tower Hamlets is a really big hotspot for pollution, and that is causing some major health problems. Air pollution is linked to heart disease, strokes, dementia, cancer, and lots of lung diseases. So I consider it my duty to raise awareness about the climate crisis.
Children like Katia and Rizal and vulnerable residents across the borough are at risk of adding to these shocking statistics. The problem of air pollution has been widely recognised across Tower Hamlets for years, but can anything be done about it? If change is to come about, air pollution must be viewed as part of the wider environmental crisis that has been building in Tower Hamlets for decades. Paul has lived in Tower Hamlets since the 1970s. He's seen a lot of change in the area since he started living here.
Flats are going higher. You haven't got outdoor space that's personal. The thing that jumped out for me when I'm walking around is the rubbish and recycling. People don't know how to recycle properly. They don't care how to recycle properly. I find coat hangers, polystyrene foam in the recycling don't belong there.
Paul is not the only one concerned about the worsening environmental crisis.
So one of the key things that's happening in the borough is that it has really high levels of air pollution. So air quality is a really significant issue for the borough. And that's partly because of the major roads that go through the area. And so the combined effect of traffic and air pollution is, I think, that the health of our residents is significantly compromised.
As is becoming clear, Tower Hamlets is facing a real crisis, and everyone, young and old, is being affected. Given everything we know about the danger we are in, it's time to ask ourselves some difficult questions. How much do we really care about our own health and the health of the most vulnerable in society? How much does it matter to us that our children grow up in a clean, safe world where their future is not threatened by the impact of runaway climate change? How far are we willing to go? What actions are we willing to take to tackle what will be the biggest crisis of our times and emerge victorious? The answer to these questions starts with the people of Tower Hamlets.
Everyone should come together more often and think about their planet more often. There's loads of open parks and stuff like that. Why don't you plant some trees to help the oxygen there?
What do we want? No more plastic! When do we want it? Now!
Young people are at the forefront of the movement to save the future from environmental catastrophe. Ever since Greta Thunberg went on her famous school strikes back in August 2018 to protest in front of the Swedish parliament, young people's climate activism has never been far from the news. On March 15th, 2019, there were 2,083 student events in 125 countries demanding stricter environmental laws against climate change. This is a growing worldwide movement, and it is taking root in Tower Hamlets too.
I find it really inspiring to see the difference that young people have made over the last year or two. Like young people campaigning actively for other people to change is really important and can be really powerful.
Often with environmental problems, children and young people are seen as victims of air pollution, victims of climate change. Yes, they are, but at the same time, there is no denying that they are also agents of change.
And Tower Hamlets has a history of activism, proving to us that positive social change can be achieved through people power.
I've been deeply impressed by the learning that young people have done around these issues, their understanding of these issues, and their ability to find solutions that I think are pertinent to everybody who's got change to make. We are hearing from our residents that they want to have less of an impact on the environment and be able to comment and contribute towards issues that are affecting them, particularly around air quality, but also around the wider issues around sustainability. So I think this borough's got a lot to be proud of in terms of raising those issues and convincing politicians to take those issues up.
Out on the streets around Brick Lane, there's a sense of optimism about what can be done.
I suppose I'm quietly optimistic in a way, because you can see that there are things happening already now, like I think in Oxford Street recently, get way less traffic, and a lot of the areas are becoming like zones where they charge huge fees, which is all like positive changes.
You know, there's a saying that it always helps when you're positive, and it's really like, it's not just about you know, the people, but you know, as you as an individual.
It's important, obviously it's important. I can see there's a lot of electric cars running in this area. It's good for us, for the environment and pollution. It's good.
Paul too has some uplifting words to share.
You've got to be optimistic. You can't be anything else, really. And social media's doing a good job in that we didn't have that when I was a child. You know, so yeah, you know that the word is getting out there obviously more with social media now. As I see it, the most thing that works is to people's pocket. You know, if one thing's more expensive than another, it's like this thing. Just take this thing with supermarket bags. They've just increased them again. I think some supermarkets 30p. That's a lot of money to some people, you know. So if that makes them take a bag every time they go shopping, then perhaps that's working.
Tower Hamlets, like the rest of the world, is at a crossroads. Down one path lie floods, food shortages, toxic air, and more deadly pandemics. Down the other lie difficult choices, hard work, and sacrifice. But there also lies hope. Hope for a world in which young people and generations yet unborn can enjoy their lives without fear of natural disaster. Hope for a more sustainable future. If we are to take the path of hope, then all of the strength and resolve of the people of Tower Hamlets will be needed. But the effort required during the COVID crisis to maintain the lockdown has shown that when it comes to protecting the health of those we care about, we are willing to make the difficult but necessary choices. We've heard the facts, the stories, and the solutions. Now it's down to us to rise to the challenge. If you believe we can do better, speak to your friends, your family, your community, your school, GP, local councillors, and MPs, and together, let's take action. It's time for change.
All right, thank you very much. Sorry, I stopped sharing my screen. All back to normal, Harry, are we?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, that was there you have it. That was the film Time for Change, made what feels like a lifetime ago now. And we started production on that before COVID happened and finished production during COVID. So that obviously had an impact upon the narrative that we were trying to tell through that film. I'm aware we've only got about 6 minutes left of this session, but I'm very happy to take any questions or hear any comments or observations that anyone in the room has about that film. Emma's also here, who was a part of the film, who might be happy to answer questions as well. But yeah, thanks very much for watching.
Yeah, I see there are quite a few people in the chat, but you're on mute, so and your video is off. So if you do have anything that you want to ask or say on this topic, feel free to unmute yourself and turn your video on as well.
I was just thinking though, Tam and Harry, that I was filmed, and then 2 months later, I think, then the pandemic hit, and you know, there's so many links between the climate crisis and the pandemic in terms of how we use our world and nature, and how the rapid use of air travel and how the virus transmitted. It was, you know, it's a really interesting. That was filmed, then that happened, you know, and, you know, changed everything really. So I was just reflecting on that as I was watching it. So
yeah, 100%. How did it feel seeing that again for you, Harry?
Yeah, I think I'm happy with it. I'm happy with it as a finished product. I think I'm really glad that, in the same way, well, I think we did a good thing in highlighting how COVID did more to affect already kind of negatively affected communities within London. So vulnerable people, the elderly, the young, and also marginalised communities as well. It would have been easy to overlook that aspect, but I think COVID highlighted it even more, which meant that it was something that we really had to focus on and draw attention to during that film.
Yeah, for sure. I think as well as the sort of links that we were able to draw between the climate crisis and the health crisis in Tower Hamlets, I was really happy with the kind of young people and like the local resident involvement. I think that's obviously the main part of what happens here at Spotlight, giving young people a voice, involving them in things that happen around them. And I think that their agency and ability to you know, be well informed and change things is a really important part of the solution to some of these problems. It was really nice to see that come through in the film.
Yeah, 100% on that. I think it the extent to which attention is drawn towards the environmental crisis and towards health-related issues varies from school to school, and it really is at the discrepancy of the probably the head teacher at each school, much in the same way as like attention towards sort of mental health related issues varies from school to school. Tam and I were really lucky to work in local primary schools where there was like a really big focus on climate change and the environmental crisis, and so we were put in touch with young people, very young people who were really interested and passionate and engaged in this conversation from a very young age, which filled me with a lot of hope. But no doubt there are schools, equivalent schools across Tower Hamlets and London, where there isn't as much of an emphasis pushed on this topic from the top down, which is something that would be good to change in the future, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And I've seen your message on chat from Rebecca. Thank you very much. Glad to hear that you've been using the film for your Clean Air Day last year. Just would like to say again that for anyone here, they're very welcome to share this film, use it in whatever context they like in terms of promoting awareness around the climate crisis, air pollution, health, young people's kind of activism, all these kind of contexts. Go ahead and share it as widely as you like. That would be awesome.
Just put a link in the chat to a public version, which has got subtitles, which is on Spotlight's YouTube channel. So if you're sharing this as part of events, then that's the one to use. We just used an MP4 without subtitles today, just to make it as unglitchy as possible. But I'll put a link in the chat if you're interested in rewatching it or sharing it more widely.
And talking of the young people, most of them don't have a vote today, and so we've got a real responsibility to vote in their interests. So there's a lot of air pollution, climate change issues sort of being discussed locally, and so vote responsibly and with them in mind is my message.
100%. Vote with climate in mind. Think about what candidates are saying what in terms of, and actually have done what in terms of tackling these problems. And as Emma was saying, if you do have children, or even if you don't, think of the future and what is most important. I guess that's probably all we have time for. But yeah, it was nice to show that film again.